Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Horse Races Now podcast. Kenny is always on the move. Today, I believe you're in Saratoga, right, Kenny?
I'm in Saratoga. Got the big dog by my side.
Oh, there is Sonny. We've missed Sonny.
Yeah, Sonny made the road trip to Saratoga yesterday, and we're all snuggled in up here now. We've got 10 horses here right now. One runner later today, but we're starting the annual migration north and setting up the team up here, and we'll have horses up here deep into the fall.
So how is Sonny doing? Our listeners always ask about Sonny.
Sonny's doing great. I drove in late yesterday afternoon, crossed the bridge to see across the bridge at Saratoga Lake. He saw the water and went crazy.
Wow.
Pulled up to the house, jumped out, dove right into the lake.
Okay.
He didn't hesitate not one moment. He loves the lake.
Okay.
Typical Labrador.
Yeah.
Very typical, right?
Yeah. Bring you back some ducks, maybe?
Oh, well, there was a ducks evidently laid some eggs close to our backyard, and she was protecting them. Of course, and then she's enticing him away from those. And
right.
Yeah, it was kind of a funny thing to watch.
All right. Well, and I guess we got the skunk smell out of Sonny these days, right?
About 90% of it. We got when he gets wet like he did last night, you can smell a little tinge of it. But I tell you, that was one heck of a skunk that got him.
Yeah, I guarantee it.
Yeah, he was stinking for a long time.
All right, so listen, nice win this past weekend by Mystic Dan. Had to feel good. I know I heard you mention maybe on one of the broadcasts or somewhere that you really felt like this horse had more to give. He certainly showed it this past weekend.
Very proud of it. Very proud of the team and the horse. And I mean, it wasn't a straight line on all that. I've said before, I mean, the first couple of starts, I'll take the bullet on, but nothing much went right. And fortunately, the ownership group's fantastic. They gave us plenty of time to regroup with him, and he rewarded everybody for it.
Ken, have you had to do much of that? I want to hear about his trip a little bit more, but have you had to do much of the kind of the regrouping? Because that seems like that's a whole other thing. You know, we look at what Sovereignty's done this year, right? Skip the Preakness, getting ready to run the Belmont. So, but I think in hindsight, even though Mystic Dan ran second in the Preakness, if I'm not mistaken, you think you probably should have skipped the Preakness, right?
Yeah, probably should have in hindsight. But, look, hindsight's 20/20. I think most horse trainers are probably more critical of themselves than any fan or player could be. You make decisions thinking it's the right one, and then when a horse doesn't run well, you have to kind of step back and reevaluate. But, look, you can't unring a bell, and you have to keep going, and it just depends. Each horse is different. At the time, I felt like he was sturdy enough to do it, and then in hindsight, he was a little over the top. And when I say that, maybe he wasn't at full strength. And when you package horses' races close together, it does tax them, and as it should. So that's why the Triple Crown's so hard.
But he did run second, right? So it wasn't like he in the Preakness. So it wasn't like he ran poorly. But after the Preakness, when you got into the Belmont, that's when you saw something.
Well, the Belmont, the racetrack up here at Saratoga is significantly different than Churchill or Pimlico, and it was deeper. And I think Mystic Dan, not being a really big horse, I believe that the track maybe affected him a little bit more. But look, hindsight, and he has been so good to us, and just really proud that he got back to the winner's circle.
All right, so what's next for Mystic Dan?
I think it's a no-brainer. June 28th at Churchill Downs, we're going to run Mystic Dan in the Stephen Foster, and we're going to run Torpedo Anna in the Fleur de Lis.
On same day?
And, should be a really big day. Very exciting day. Looking forward to teeing all that up, and hopefully both horses come into the race together in good order. Might even see them breeze against each other going into these races.
Well, you did that before the Derby, right? And before the Oaks.
Yeah.
And
they're good matches.
Yeah.
They're good matches. They keep themselves, they make good company because they're both so talented. But yeah, right now we're kind of set the schedule for both horses. More than likely, she's got a breeze coming next weekend, but then we're going to probably work them on the 14th and the 21st of June at Churchill, and that sets them up for June 28th.
I love it. There was a local article here in the Courier Journal by Eric Crawford, and he mentioned that Mystic Dan was the first ever Derby winner to win again at Churchill Downs within a certain period. I thought that was amazing to hear that. Did you know that? Well, you quoted in that article, but did you know that fact?
No, I didn't. I know that Silver Charm won back there in the Clark Handicap as a 4-year-old, I believe,
Okay.
but that's typically in the fall. So, yeah, no, look, and hopefully we can come back and win. He'd
And
be one of
win
the
the
few that
Stephen
won a
Foster.
Grade One back as a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old there
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah.
hopefully we can come back and do that in the Stephen Foster.
You also had another nice win this past weekend. Another horse you've been high on that hasn't quite performed to the ability you thought he might, but a Hypnus won this past weekend, right?
Hypnus had a real big win. That we've been trying to build that horse up. He broke his maiden first time out, and then had a few races where I think the water was a little too deep too soon, and then his last two runs have been super. And I think we're probably gonna bring that horse to Saratoga here in the next weeks to point him towards the Curlin and possibly the Travers
Nice. Okay.
this late summer.
All right. Let's go Hypnus. And then obviously we've got it. You mentioned her just a second ago, but how has Torpedo looked since her past, race? It was a little bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, she's good. We don't have much pressure on us at this point. We're looking more at a second half campaign, and she's got the one blemish. She didn't run well last time out, but we're going to regroup with her, and I think she'll be pretty formidable in her next start.
Kenny, we get a lot of questions from our listeners, and I don't know how well you can talk to this, and I don't know how much you're around them. And I believe all your 2-year-olds are at Silverleaf, but we get a lot of questions about the 2-year-olds. Is there any 2-year-olds you can give us any insight on?
And well, we've got a superb group of young horses, and we just made our first start the other day at. Come on, son, come here. He sees something outside that interests him. We made our first start at Churchill the other day with a horse named Sleeping on Freedom. So June 1st was our first runner, and I tend not to participate in the 2-year-old sprint races in April and May.
Okay.
And so you're going to see more of our young horses start stretching out in the fall. Off the top of my head, I've got a colt named Blackout Time that looks like he's a really nice horse. So special. I'm sure if I missed some that there'll be those that, how come you didn't mention mine?
Right.
But we've got a fantastic group of young horses that we're really excited about. And, I've got actually list a few of them in front of me. I'm going to enter two-year-old fillies for June 11th, go to girl. And then also one named Best Friend.
Okay.
And then let's see, later in the month, Blackout Time I already mentioned. And then I've got some other ones. Magic Minister. There's Maximum Offer, which is a Maxfield. That's later in the next month. Filly named Prowess. A couple others. I mean, but they're all coming. But really, early summer racing for our 2-year-olds is not something that we put a ton of pressure on. And I really want my young horses ready more in the late summer and fall.
What's the theory behind that? Just to give them a little more time to get ready?
Well, I like running young horses longer. I believe the longer they run, the longer they last their racing career. And really the big money is in the longer races in the fall. I've won 5 Alcibiades and 3 Futurities, Keeneland Futurities, and those races I think are just such great races to win later in the year. But those aren't until October.
Okay.
So you really don't want to bring a young horse out too early, because you're really trying to get them to the fall where, Breeders' Cup. You've got great 2-year-old series at Churchill Downs in November. You've got some good races at Kentucky Downs. So there's plenty of time, and we're not in any hurry with any of them. Got a beautiful filly up here named the Grumpy Rabbit.
Okay.
Yeah. but big, pretty filly, cute name.
Yeah.
And like I said, I could go on with a long list of other ones, but it's a little premature yet.
So you spent a lot of time this past year, Dubai, Saudi Arabia. Is that something you plan on maybe doing again this coming year, or is that just dependent on if you have the right horse?
Way too far in front of that. I mean, our schedule just really is dictated by how well a horse is doing and timing of races. But my year here on the yearling auctions is going to start in July, and so we'll be working the phasing tipped in July sale, and then we migrate here for the yearlings, which is Saratoga August, and then we'll go back to Keeneland September. I'm probably going to participate in the French sale in Arcana this year. I've done
Okay.
that before. I bought several stakes winners at Arcana, and then hopefully I can make it to Tattersalls. We'll see.
A listener just asked. We have a horse that I believe is named after the new University of Louisville basketball coach Pat Kelsey.
Yes,
Can you give us an update on that horse?
Blame Colt, owned by Craig Mackin, and I've actually texted Coach Kelsey a couple of videos on him. And yeah, that colt's doing well, and he's probably going to go over to Churchill Barn within the next several weeks or months. And another one that we think a little more time is going to benefit him, and he probably won't show up. Maybe September we'll start trying to think about where to run
Is
him.
that
I'd
a,
love to run him at Churchill first time out for Coach Kelsey to be there.
is that a 2-year-old?
2-year-old colt.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that would be so cool if Coach Kelsey could be there and watch that. That would be pretty awesome. That horse is named Kels. Is that right?
Kells,
Kells.
Kelz.
Okay, got it. Awesome.
Kells.
All right, so here's where we're going to wrap up here today, Kenny, because this is all the questions coming in. This is what our listeners want to know because you nailed the Derby. They want you to break down this Belmont as much as you can.
Well, I mean, once again, I haven't studied it very hard, but I think Sovereignty's going to win again.
And you think you may win easy.
Yeah, I think this is a no-brainer. I think this is the best 3-year-old that I've laid eyes on all year. I'd tell everybody if they make journalism the favorite, I'd play Sovereignty. I think he's just bigger and stronger. He's got the spacing of this race in his advantage, and he's trained up here a lot. I actually watched him train first set this morning here at Saratoga.
Okay, look good.
Yeah, should have videoed that for you, shouldn't I?
You should have.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're pretty good about that on the old X too. But Kenny, I mean, he's just impressive when he trains.
Yeah, he's just a man among boys, in my opinion. And Saratoga's going to play a little bit deeper and slower than some of the other racetracks that they've been racing over, and I think he's going to benefit from that even more. And I think 1.25 miles here at Saratoga, I think it'd be practically unbeatable.
Do you play him with journalism? Do you think journalism's number 2 and could give him a run? Because obviously that's a great horse.
Well, I don't think you're going to get a very good payday on that. I think everybody'd be making that play.
Right.
I'm not a big gambler, so those out there that know, I don't hardly gamble at all. So,
Yep.
but that payback's not going to pay you much. If you studied the other horses in the race, maybe there's another one that you thought could sneak in there and mess up the exacta. But I'm on top, Sovereignty.
Okay. Have you seen any other horses work out that have impressed you?
Not yet. I just got in near Saratoga last night, so I'll be able to watch some of them if they train on the Oklahoma side, because we primarily train on this side of the world here at Saratoga.
What's that mean, Kenny?
Well, a lot of people train on the main track side, and then there are those of us that train on the Oklahoma track side.
Okay.
And my preference is the Oklahoma side. I think that the surface over here is great. It's quiet over here, and I think it's a great place to prepare for one to run anywhere. And but if those Belmont horses train on the main track side, I won't have a chance to see them.
Why do they call it the Oklahoma side?
Well, we're just going to have to get your tail up here so you can see that.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I think you'd love it. I mean, it's it's a really unique place. It's a very large property, expansive property, and
Okay.
we have uh, a real extended stabling area. But that's what makes Saratoga unique. A lot of the barns here are ancient. Fortunately, I'm not in one of them. I've got one that was built probably in the 50s or the 60s.
Okay.
But some of them were built that are as old as 1800s.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Ancients, right? Man.
yeah. It's a historical landmark, Saratoga. It's they've been racing here for, well, mid 1800s.
Okay.
Got
Gotcha.
great backstory. There's a book called They're Off, written by a guy named Ed Hoteling, and this is another Amazon purchase if you wanted it, but They're Off, and it gives you the backstory of Saratoga and the history of not only the racing in Saratoga, but a lot of the history of Saratoga, which is significant going back to the Revolutionary War.
Kenny, what race has the coolest vibe? I mean, they always talk about, and especially like that Netflix series, it's the Derby, the Derby, the Derby. But what race has the coolest kind of vibe to it when you actually have a horse in it?
Well, I assume we're talking about Saratoga, but the Travers
Yeah.
and the
Okay.
Alabama and the Alabama.
That's cool.
There are people, yeah, and the Whitney. I mean, every weekend up here, there is a signature Grade One where we the best meet the best. And if you've won a Alabama Travers, I've never won the Whitney, but I've won the Alabama twice and the Travers once.
Okay.
And I've had a lot of really good runs in the Travers. I've had a second and a third and a fourth. But those races are amazing to participate in. And the crowds here are completely different than the crowds at Keeneland or Churchill, because they have this picnic area here where you can bring your own cooler and food.
Awesome.
And people, you have what I call a mad rush for the picnic tables here on the big race days.
Gotcha.
People will line up early in the morning, rush in, and then plant their steak on a picnic table, get all set up for the morning, and then wait for the races and stay all day.
That's cool.
It's a completely different fan experience up here at Saratoga.
Gotcha.
The grandstand, admittedly, I mean, well, it's a very, very historic grandstand. It's not my favorite grandstand to attend the racing in, but because on a really extremely hot day, it can be brutal.
Yeah.
But they make it as comfortable as possible. But on a nice 70-degree day, it's a great place to go to the races, and box seats here are prime places to be, and
Awesome.
it's a really great location. It's the historic racing. It's as opposed to more of a modern version.
Got it. Man, you painted a cool picture there. That sounds incredible. All right. So I had a conversation with my dad after Mystic Dan won, and he was like, "Oh man, it was a big race. It was a great race. It was a highly contested race." My being a novice, I said to him, "Wasn't it a grade 3? Obviously, there's different graded races there. How big of the difference, Kenny, is a grade 3 to a grade 2 to a grade 1?"
Well, so in his case, we because we started off on the wrong foot late in his 3-year-old year and early in his 4, I regressed and decided to step ladder him up.
Yep.
When I say that, I went listed stake to a grade 3. Next step would be logically a grade 2. After that, a grade 1.
Okay.
His next race, he's gonna go straight to a grade 1 from the grade 3. And sometimes you get grade 1 winners win grade 3 races, and that's exactly what he was and did. And then an older horse winning a grade 1 is a different dynamic in the sense that it's a next level. It's a difference in a player going from high school to college to pro. And when you beat 2-year-olds, it can be a little easier, and 3-year-olds not easy, but it's not as tough as it is winning a grade 1 against older horses. And older horses is grade 1 company. You're bringing experienced, best of the best, big, strong horses at a stage in their career where they probably are as talented or physically prepared as any level in their life.
God, that made a ton of sense to me. So I would assume like the Breeders' Cup has a lot of those, where it's a grade one that's got all the different ages horses, correct?
Well, the Breeders' Cup has a 2-year-old division.
Okay.
It has no 3-year-old division, so 3-year-olds in the fall have to run against older horses.
Okay.
And that's usually where you get separation factor from 3-year-olds to 4-year-olds. So you've got a whole nother level of competition for 3-year-olds to compete against olders, and they get a little bit of weight, but not much at that time of the year. And well, sometimes 3-year-olds win the classic.
Yep.
And sometimes 3-year-olds don't. And it really depends on whether the 4-year-old crop is continuing to stay in training, or if the 3-year-old crop's just that much better than the 4-year-olds.
Gotcha.
Last year, Sierra Leone won the classic as a late 3-year-old, a horse that was maturing the right direction.
Gotcha. Okay. And that was a fantastic horse. So Kenny, last question here, and we'll get you back to training. Will you be at the Belmont this weekend?
I will be. Yeah, I'll be here in some capacity. I'm not going to run anything that day. I've got horses running in Kentucky that day, but unfortunately the schedule didn't fall where we had any runners here Belmont week. But I've got one in today, and we're working on setting up here for the meet later in the summer, which starts sometime in mid July and lasts through Labor Day.
And you'll be at the race though?
Yes, I will.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, we'll see if you've got this one as nailed as you had the Derby.
All right. Pressure's on.
The pressure is on. All right, Kenny. Well, thank you for your time today. And listeners, thank you once again for listening to the Horse Races Now podcast. If you don't mind, give us a 5-star review. Give us a subscribe. Give us a share. Helps our numbers. Helps with advertising. And we'll be back next week.
See you at the races.